Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to show you how to make this really fun canvas tote bag. I added a drawstring at the top to keep all my goodies safe and secure inside. I've also got 2 pockets on the front here and then a nice big pocket on the back, and there's also one inside. This bag is super easy to make, definitely beginner friendly, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the supplies for this project are super easy. You just need some canvas, and the instructions for cutting all of these pieces are going to be in the PDF instructions below. So just in the description box below, just click that link and you can get all the exact measurements for everything. I use 2 different kinds of canvas. If you don't want to, you can use the same kind. I just thought it was kind of fun to have an accent. You'll also need some fabric for your lining in your inside pocket. You'll need some of this cotton roping for your straps, and I just got this at a local craft store. And then some cotton rope for your drawstrings. And I just used this one right here. I just got it at my local craft store. It's 3/16 inch polyester filler cord. And we have a Jax coming to see what's happening. Okay, and then you'll also need a friction erasable marker or some way to just make some marks on your fabric. And then you'll need, a ruler, a rotary cutter, and a cutting mat. So basic sewing supplies, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is prepare our outer pockets and our casing, and since this is canvas, I'm actually not going to bother lining our outer pockets. The only thing I'm going to do is take both of the pieces and fold in this top edge 1/4 of an inch and then another 1/4 of an inch, and then press it with an iron, and I've already kind of done that, so hopefully you can see that here. And then I've done that to both of these pieces. And then we're also going to do the same thing to our drawstring casing. So we're going to just take it over, press it in 1/4 of an inch and then 1/4 of an inch, and then we're just going to sew right along that so that we don't have any raw edges. And we're going to do that to both of our little casing pieces here and both of our outside pocket pieces. So here are our 2 pieces. We've got our outside pockets and we've got our drawstring casing. We've got the short edges of the drawstring casing all done, and then these longer edges of both of our pockets are done. So now we're going to set aside the drawstring casing and we are going to grab our outside fabric. So I'm going to take one of my outside pockets and just line it up along the raw edges down here and on the sides of my outside of my bag fabric. And then now you can kind of customize this however you want. You can, I'm going to do a line down the middle so that I've got 2 pockets. You can just leave both sides open, totally up to you. One of the sides I'm going to leave open as a larger pocket for patterns or, books or, tablets, anything like that. This side I'm just going to mark the center right here and just run a stitch right up and down the middle of this to join these 2 pieces together, and I'll do a back stitch right here as well just to give it a little bit of extra strength. Alright, so I've just grabbed my ruler here, and this is 16 inches wide, so I'm just going to make a mark at the 8-inch mark. So I've just lined up the 8-inch mark with the side of my fabric here, and I'm just going to draw a line right down the middle. And these friction erasable pins just come off with heat, so as soon as I'm done sewing on this line, I can just iron it and my line will go away. All right, and then I did stick in a couple of pins just so it didn't shift around on me too much here, but this isn't too finicky, so just do whatever works for you. And I'm going to do a back stitch right here. Okay, so here is our finished one, and it's just sealed down the center here. You don't need to worry about the edges right now. The next thing we're going to do is put on the handles. And quickly, if you want to have your backside pocket be a full pocket, you don't have to do anything at this time. If you want it to have, a couple of pockets in there, then I would add that now to your other side. I'm just going to leave mine alone because I want it to be a full pocket. So the next thing we're going to do is add our handles on. And I've already cut my strap here to 24 inches. You can of course make yours however long you want. I'm going to fold up each side by 1 Just make sure you don't twist your thing here. So I'm gonna fold up each end in by about 1 inch. And then I'm going to put that folded edge down onto my bag. So the folded edge is down. And that way when we sew it on, we won't have this like raw edge sticking out. So I'm gonna grab a couple pins to help hold it in place. And you can put your handles anywhere that you want. I think I'm going to put mine in about 3.5 inches in from this edge and about 3 inches down from the top, because we will lose some of that, about 1/2 inch for our seam allowance. So somewhere right around there. And I'm just going to, if I can get a pin through that, kind of put that there to hold that in place. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. So about 3.5 inches in and approximately 3 inches down. That looks about good. Okay, and then what we're going to do is take this over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew a square around the outside of this and then an X inside the box. And I'm going to do that on both of them. That will give it some extra stability, and plus it just kind of has it's like a cute little accent. I'm going to move this one out of the way. And then quickly, I've done the same thing to the back of my bag, and I don't have my pocket on here because I'm just going to leave it one solid pocket. If you want to have, you know, a couple pockets in here, you'll want to sew that on now as well. But again, same thing on the other side, just sew a square with an X in the middle of each. All right, so this is gonna be a little bit bulky, so just take your time and go slow. I'm gonna go ahead and remove my pin, just make sure everything is nice and straight. And when you're doing this square, you wanna make sure you're getting the bottom layer as well. And just go nice and slow. And I'm just gonna back stitch here along that. Leave my needle in the down position, lift up my presser foot, turn my work, and then keep going. Now I'm going to leave my presser foot in the corner there, turn it to the diagonal, and I'm going to just run a couple stitches back and forth that way. Okay, and now I'm going to just travel to my other corner and do the opposite diagonal. And this just gives your bag a little bit more strength. And then we're going to do that to all 4 of our handles. All right, here we go. We've got our handles added to both our back of our bag and our front of our bag, and we're ready to move on. All right, now we're going to put the outside of our bag together. So if you have not added your second pocket, now is the time to grab that. And you're going to want to lay it just like you would this other one here, lining up the bottom edges of your pocket to your bag. And then we're going to take the top or front of our bag in my case. Then we're going to take the front of our bag and lay it right side down on top of the other pocket and outside bag fabric, and just make sure that all 4 pieces are nice and lined up. And the other thing I like to do, just in case I didn't do exact seams here, is I just like to make sure that these 2 layers are lined up so that when I sew them together, they'll stay together. And what we're going to do is we're going to sew all the way down one side, across the bottom, and then back up the other side of the bag, leaving the top open. And again, I'm going to grab some pins here and just pin to make sure that stuff doesn't move around too much on me. All right, and here we are. I'm going to do a back stitch up here at the top, and I'm going to sew just a little bit more than 1/4 inch. Okay, Okay guys, here we are. I measured for you and it's about 3/8 of an inch in. Sorry, I'm an eyeballer when it comes to projects like this, so do whatever you're comfortable with. I know some people suggest 1/2 inch on bags. Yeah, I do somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 inch, I guess. Okay, so we've got our opening here. We've got our pockets and sewn all the way around the outside. And now we're gonna go ahead and set this project aside for a second and we're gonna work on the lining. Okay, so next we're going to be working on our lining. So here is the bag lining and then here's our little pocket, and this is what we're going to tackle first. So all we're going to do is take that and fold it in half along that long edge there so that our pocket looks something like this. It's like about 8 by 5-ish. And then I'm just going to put a couple pins in here just so that it doesn't move around on me. And then I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine. I'm going to sew down both of these sides and into the middle, leaving me about 2 inches open, and then we're going to turn our pocket inside out. And for this, I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch. Just going to backstitch right there, leave an opening. Backstitch and keep going. Okay, here we are, and this is where our little hair marker kind of comes in handy. We're just going to carefully turn out our pockets, and then I just use this pointy end. Just be careful to kind of turn out the edges. And then I'm going to take this over to my ironing board and just press it so it's nice and flat. And then I'll also kind of press in this bottom seam down here 1/4 of an inch as well. And then when we sew it onto our lining piece, we'll take care of that opening. Okay, so here's one of our pieces of lining. Here's our other piece that's kind of out of the way, and here is our little pocket we just finished sewing. Here's the opening. I just went ahead and pressed it nice and flat in there so that it's ready to go. I'm going to actually take it to my sewing machine and just run a quick finishing stitch right along this folded edge just to make it look a little bit more finished. It also helps give the pocket itself a little bit more structure. Alright, so I've just run a little stitch along the top of my pocket here. The bottom is still open, as you can see. And we're going to just center our pocket on one of our pieces of lining. And I kind of eyeball this, but I'm going to do, let's see, what is that? About 4 inches down and approximately maybe 4 1/4 in on both sides. 4 1/4 in on the sides and 4 down. But you can, of course, put your pocket wherever you want it. You could have also made it larger. Totally up to you. And I'm just going to put a couple pins in here so that it doesn't move around on me. And then what I'm going to do is take it to my sewing machine, do a back stitch right here, go all the way around the bottom, making sure to close up this opening, and back up, do a back stitch here. If you'd like, you can leave this a solid pocket. You can also, like we did with the outside pockets, put a stitch down the center. You could even put a couple stitches if you want to hold, you know, crochet needles or pencils or something like that. It's totally up to you. You can customize this portion. Alright guys, so here's my pocket. It's all sewn around, and then I did a little middle stitch, so I've got 2 little pockets here. And for this next step, we just want to make sure that our pocket openings are facing up. We're going to take our other piece of lining and line that up right sides together with the first piece. And then what we're going to do is, again, leave the top open, but we're going to sew down this side to about, let me see if you can see here, sew down this side to here, this side to about here. We're going to leave about 5 or so inches in the center here for us to turn our bag inside out. This is very important. If you skip this step, you will not be able to turn your bag inside out once we've sewn the top together. So just down the sides and to about here on the bottom, leave a hole in the bottom and leave a hole along the top. Okay, so here we are. Again, I threw in a couple pins just to kind of keep everything lined up. Whatever seam allowance you did on the outside of the bag is what you're going to want to do on the inside lining as well. Okay, did a back stitch there. I'm gonna give myself about 4 or 5 inches. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is box our bottoms, and you can kind of make this as large of a boxy bottom or small as you want. I'm probably going to do about 2 inches or so. Whatever you do on the lining, just do that on the outside of your bag as well. And what we're going to do is put our hands inside the lining here, all the way into these corners, and then just kind of sandwich it together, like so. And then I'm just going to kind of straighten everything out so it's nice and flat. I'm going to move my bag out of the way. So essentially you have 2 points like this. And now I'm going to move this one out of the way. And what we want is for this seam and this seam to basically be lined up. So just make sure everything's nice and flat. And I'm just going to place this diagonal line along one of the diagonal lines of my edges, and then our 2-inch mark right here is just going to go right at the tip of our fabric on that seam line. Then we're just going to make sure everything's nice and straight and draw a line right there. Now this pin is erasable, but it won't really matter because this is going to be covered on the inside of our bag. I'm just going to put a couple of wonder clips right here just to kind of keep it in place. And then we're going to do the same thing with the other corner, again lining up these 2 seams. And I'm just gonna flip this one out of the way. I usually use pins on this, but for this one we're using wonder clips, so they're just a little bulkier. Same deal, put my 2-inch mark right here at my corner, and then line up my diagonal line on my ruler right there, and just draw a line across there. And then whatever size of a boxy bottom you did for the lining, you're gonna also just do that same thing for the outside of the bag. The only thing with this one, make sure that when you stick your hand in the bag, you're going in between both of the pockets. You don't want to, for example, accidentally put your hand in one of the pockets, because then when you do your boxy bottom, you'll kind of mess up the outside of your bag. So just make sure that you're not having your hands inside one of the pockets. Again, we're just going to put our hands in to the corners like that and just kind of sandwich it. And then straighten everything out. And this one will be a little bit bulkier and more cumbersome for you, but just take your time with it. Straighten everything out. I'm going to fold this one out of the way, and then I'll go a little bit closer here for you. All right, so I did a little bit closer so you can see a little bit better. And again, same deal. We're going to just line this up. Put the 2-inch marker down here at the bottom and draw a line across there. And again, I'm just going to grab a couple wonder clips just to hold all these layers in place. And then we're going to take this over to the sewing machine and just sew right on that line. Okay, I'm going to flip this one out of the way so we can do the other one. Okay, all right, so let's take this over to the machine. We're going to sew directly on our lines here, and we'll cut it off about a 1/2 inch away from our stitch line right here. Okay, so we're over at our machine. I'm just going to fold this one out of the way, and I can remove my clips now. And I'm just going to go ahead and sew right on that line, and I am going to do a back stitch at the front and the end here. Okay, so our pieces should be looking something like this. Now might be a good time just to turn your bag pocket right side out just a little bit, just to make sure that you got the pockets on the right side and everything looks good before you go ahead and cut it off. And that looks fine. So I'm just gonna grab my scissors here and just trim about a 1/2 inch away from that stitch line. Okay, at this point we can go ahead and turn our bag outside, right sides out. And just pop out those pockets and corners. Everything looks good for that one. There we go, and then our lining is still inside out, so we're just gonna leave these like this for a second. Put them over to the side. The next thing we're gonna do really quick is just take our casing strips here, and we're gonna fold them wrong sides together and just press a crease down that center right there, like so, and I'll meet you right back here. Okay, so here we go. I've just pressed them wrong sides together, so we have that nice crease right there. And then we're going to take our bag top, and I'm just gonna kind of try and fold these handles out of the way a little bit. And the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna line up the open or raw edges of your casing with the raw edge of your bag, and just center it along this top here. And this is a good place to use Wonder Clips, and just tack that down. It's about maybe 1 inch in from each edge. Okay, just so it's centered. I'm going to do the same thing on this back side. And I'm just going to use my other one as a guide for this, so they're kind of lining up together. We're going to take all of this now and put it inside of our lining. So our bag is going to be right side out. Our lining is going to be inside out. And I would like my pocket, I don't know if you guys can see this here, but my pocket is going to be on the back side of my bag. So I'm going to put it towards the back. We're just going to kind of open this up and slide it in there. Okay, now this part can be a little bit fiddly, but basically what we're going to be doing is just securing the outside of the bag to the lining. And I like to start at the side seams here. So I'll just line up those side seams like that, place a clip there, and then I'll do the same thing on this other edge. Line that up there. Okay, and then kind of just straighten everything else out. And we're going to go ahead then, and I'm going to just use this clip I already have holding on my casing. I'm just going to grab the lining there. Same thing over here. And then I'll probably put another one in the middle here and just make sure all these layers are lined up. You can also use pins or whatever you have on hand. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing to the back side. Oh. Okay. All right, now we're going to take this. We've got it all nice and pinned. All 3 layers are nice and lined up along this raw edge over here. We're going to take this over to our machine and sew with somewhere between a 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch all the way around the edge of the bag. This is where it's very important that you still have this opening in your lining, because we're going to use this to turn it. So if you don't have that, just double check really quick and seam rip that open if you forgot. Okay, now I have removed my quilting table from my machine. That's going to make it a little bit easier for me to get this bag kind of on here. So if you have a removable little table on your machine, that might be a good time to do that. And I'm just going to start out here, being careful. I'm going to start out at my side seam. Just make sure that everything is lined up. I'm going to do a back stitch here, and I'm just going to sew around my bag. And just take your time, make sure all your layers are lined up the whole way around. Okay, so here is what we should be having right now, and we're going to go ahead and carefully reach in and turn our bag right side out. So just be gentle and work it through your lining here. There we go. We're almost done with our bag, you guys. Okay, now at this step, we want to take this over to the machine. And you can iron as well. And just fold this open edge under 1/4 of an inch and just kind of press it and take it over to the machine and just run right along that edge and close up this opening. Okay, so our end is closed up, and then we can just go ahead and push our lining inside of our bag here. Okay, and then the next thing that we're going to do, once you have it all kind of straightened out here, you're probably going to want to just take it over to the ironing board really quick and just give this edge a press, just to make sure everything's nice and tidy. And then I'm going to run a stitch about 1/4 inch down from this seam right here all the way around the bag. That just helps keep the lining in place and give it a more finished look. Okay guys, we are almost done with this bag. The last thing to do is just to insert our drawstring cords. And so I just have this large paper pin here, and actually what I found is easier is if you do 2 of them the first time together. So I'm going to just go through this one and this one and see if I can get those together the first time around. And if you've never done this before, you basically push the needle. Here's my, not needle, pin. You push the pin, kind of scrunch the fabric up on the pin, and then this hand I'm holding onto the pin and then just pulling the fabric with the other hand. And so you just kind of scooch it through to get to the other side. Alright, so there is that. So now I can take this off, and I'm just going to leave that one out, and now I'm just going to take the other one. I'm going to leave this one dangling free, and I'm only going to take one of them and put them through this back. Okay, so this one is done, and we can take off this pin now. And now we're going to take this one and set it aside. I'm going to pull this one back through. Put my pin on here. This one's going to be a little bit tighter to get through because this one needs to go back through this backing one. And just because there's one already going the opposite direction, it just makes it kind of a little bit tighter, but you can do it. Okay, we're done basically, guys. Okay, so now you can take your loose ends and pull them like that, and then you're just going to take the two together and tie in like a little knot. Do the same thing to the other side. Oh. There we go. And we're all done. We've got this cute little boxy bottom on our bag now. We've got pockets in the front, in the back. We've got a little drawstring to keep all of our contents secure. Cute little handles. We're good to go. All right guys, that is it. As you can see, this bag was super easy to make. I think it took probably under an hour. And yeah, super cute, fun. If you do decide to make this, make sure to tag it. I'll put a hashtag below for you and share it on social media so I can see what you guys have created. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe. That way I know to keep making fun tutorials for you. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you next time.